You think you're weak, but look closer. Your mind is copying someone. There are reactions inside you that never came from your personality. The shrinking at the wrong moment, the voice that gets small without your permission, the confidence that dies right when you need it most. These aren't flaws. They're traces, echoes, old behaviors your body memorized from someone else. And your mind has been replaying them long after you stopped noticing. And when you finally understand who you've been copying all this time, everything about your weakness will start to make sense. You keep wondering why you feel weaker than you should, why simple moments drain you, why pressure makes you fold, why your mind shuts down before you even try. You tell yourself to be stronger, but something inside you pulls back, as if strength is dangerous, as if speaking up comes with a cost, and you can't explain it, because nothing around you looks threatening, yet your body reacts like it remembers something you don't. You feel this strange split inside you, one part that wants to rise, and another part that collapses out of habit. And the truth is simple. You're not fighting life. You're fighting patterns. Patterns you never chose. Patterns that were handed to you before you even understood what they meant. This is why you feel disconnected from your own power. This is why you keep holding back. This is why you confuse fear with caution and silence with safety. And none of it started with you. There's a reason these patterns feel older than your choices, older than your memories, older than your adulthood, because they didn't start with you. They started with the person you watched the closest. Before you even had words for what you were feeling, you learned life by studying someone's face, someone's silence, someone's reactions, long before you understood what any of it meant. As a child, you didn't choose behaviors. You absorbed them. You absorbed tone. You absorbed fear. You absorbed the way someone else carried their emotions. And without knowing it, their way of surviving became your way of living. Every flinch, every hesitation, every shrinking moment, they all lead back to one place. The first person whose approval shaped you. The first person whose mood decided your day. The first person whose reactions taught you what was safe. Your father, not through his words, but through his presence. Through the things he couldn't control. Through the emotions he never learned to handle. And your body, quietly, faithfully, copied all of it. When you were young, your body wasn't just growing, it was recording. Recording tone, recording tension, recording silence, recording the way your father reacted to the world. A child doesn't analyze, a child copies, and you copied everything. If he walked through life afraid, your nervous system learned to expect danger. If he spoke with anger, your body learned to stay small around intensity. If he withdrew, your emotions learned to disappear to stay safe. If he never expressed softness, your heart learned to harden itself early. This is how conditioning works. It doesn't ask for permission. It imprints. Your brain built pathways around his behavior. Your body built reactions around his moods. Your emotions built defenses around his silence. And now, as an adult, you're still following rules you never agreed to. Flinch first, speak later, hide emotion, avoid conflict, stay agreeable, don't take up space. Not because these rules are right, but because your childhood taught you they were necessary. This isn't personality. This is programming, the oldest kind, the kind you didn't even know was happening. This is why you react the way you do now. Even when nothing around you is threatening, you freeze in moments where you need to speak. You back down even when you know you're right. You rehearse simple conversations in your head. You worry about upsetting people who don't care. You feel guilty for resting. You overthink decisions that others make easily. You avoid conflict to keep the peace. You shrink so the room stays calm. You apologize without knowing why. You feel heavy in places that should feel simple. You feel small in situations where you should feel capable. You feel tired even when your life isn't overwhelming. And none of this started in adulthood. It started in childhood, when your nervous system learned to survive someone else's moods. Now your body reacts to pressure the same way it reacted to him. Same silence, same tension, same hesitation. Not because you're weak, but because your earliest lessons taught you that staying safe meant staying small. But here's the truth, the part no one ever told you. None of this is weakness. None of this is failure. None of this is you not being enough. These reactions were survival, adaptations you built before you even knew what survival meant. You learned to stay quiet, to avoid tension. You learned to stay small, to stay safe. You learned to hold in emotion because emotion wasn't welcomed. You learned to predict danger even when there wasn't any. Your body wasn't betraying you. It was protecting you in the only way it knew how. Your hesitation, your softness, your silence, your fear, your collapsing moments. They were never proof of weakness. They were proof of how hard you worked to survive your childhood. You didn't fail. You adapted. And adaptation is not weakness. It's intelligence. It's instinct. It's evidence that your system did everything it could to keep you safe. Your father didn't set out to shape you this way. He was living inside patterns he never escaped. He carried fears he never named. He carried pressure he never processed. He carried wounds he never healed. And a man who never learned to face his own emotions can't teach his child how to face theirs. Maybe he didn't know how to express care. Maybe he didn't know how to apologize. Maybe he didn't know how to stay calm. Maybe he didn't know how to be gentle. Maybe he confused silence with strength. Maybe he mistook control for protection. Maybe he believed shutting down was the only way to stay safe. He wasn't heartless. He was unprepared, untrained, unfinished. He passed down the only version of himself he knew. Not out of malice, but out of limitation. And those limitations became your lessons. Lessons you never asked for. Lessons you carried into adulthood. Understanding this doesn't excuse anything, but it explains everything. And sometimes, explanation is what finally lets the anger loosen its grip. Awareness is where everything starts to change, because once you see a pattern, you're no longer controlled by it. The moment you notice your own reactions, the moment you question where they came from, the moment you realize they aren't your personality, that's the moment your life begins to open. You stop blaming yourself. You stop calling yourself weak. You stop attacking your own softness. You start seeing the truth. You are shaped, but you're not stuck. You begin catching the old reflexes, the shrinking, the overthinking, the emotional shutdown, and instead of obeying them, you pause. That pause is freedom. That pause is awareness. That pause is the first moment where you choose the response, not your childhood. This is how change begins, not with force, not with perfection, but with noticing and choosing differently, one honest moment at a time. Transformation doesn't happen all at once. It happens quietly, in the smallest moments of your day, the moment you speak when you usually stay silent, the moment you take space without apologizing, the moment you rest without feeling guilty, the moment you don't collapse when someone is disappointed, the moment you choose honesty over fear. These little shifts matter. They're not random. They're rewiring. Each small choice breaks a rule you learned as a child. Each step pushes you away from who you were trained to be and closer to who you actually are. You're not trying to become a new person. You're returning to the version of you that never got to grow. You're unlearning the fear, unlearning the silence, unlearning the shrinking, unlearning the emotional armor you didn't choose. You're becoming the person your childhood never allowed, and the person your father never knew how to become. And that growth, that slow, steady, quiet growth, is strength, not the kind he modeled, but the kind you're building now, on your own terms. You were never weak. You were shaped. You didn't choose these reactions. They were taught to you, long before you knew they were lessons. But now you see them, and seeing them means you're not trapped by them anymore. You're not living in your father's shadow. You're stepping out of it. You're growing in ways he never learned. You're healing wounds he never named. You're breaking patterns he never questioned. And that isn't rebellion. That's evolution. You're not copying him anymore. You're choosing you, your voice, your boundaries, your strength, the real strength, the quiet kind, the honest kind, the kind that doesn't come from fear, but from self-awareness. And as you move forward, you'll realize something powerful. You were never weak because of your father. You only believed you were, because you were carrying his unfinished story. But now, you're starting your own. And it begins here, with awareness, with choice, with you.